Hi. Hello. I have had some interruptions with this video. Mainly my dog barking throughout the video and interrupting it. Alas, here we go. As I mentioned yesterday, I was going to make a bit of a controversial video today about manifestation and fractured coherence and how that affects your manifestations and why the spiritual community is struggling to call in their manifestations. I believe that there are a lot of manifestation coaches that are missing the core essence of what it means to manifest. And I think a book that comes to mind that most of us would have been shown, at the time where we were kind of becoming more aware of our thoughts and our consciousness, is The Secret. And I think it's a wonderful book. Rhonda Burns, I think is her name, the author of that book. But it does miss a lot of the ways that people actually manifest. And I want to break it down for you in 4 separate chapters, I'm going to call them, as to why your manifestations may not be coming in. And I call it controversial because it's probably going to upset a lot of you that have been trying to manifest something through writing something down 1,000 times, which a lot of, manifestation coaches will tell you to do. So, what is fractured coherence and why does it have an effect on your manifestations coming in? Fractured coherence can look a lot like having boundaries with a friend, for example. However, staying in a relationship that you know is toxic for you, but you're staying there for monetary reasons. Now, that creates an imbalance in your auric field and it weakens your vibration and frequency. And I'll get into both of those terms a little bit later, and also your resonance. So coherence looks a lot like, let me give you an example. This example I think will make a lot of sense to you. Just say you were at an orchestra. Fractured coherence would look like each violinist or whatever instrument they're playing, they're all playing a different song, and it sounds awful and it's ringing and it doesn't sound good. Whereas coherence would be they're all playing in synergy. Now, a lot of people can manifest through methods such as simply saying things out loud 1,000,000 times because they naturally have an ability to get into a state of coherence. But the majority of people do not have that ability. So that may play out as maybe you are looking to manifest a specific amount of money. However, your home life is an absolute mess. Therefore, you cannot reach the level of coherence to call that manifestation in. Now, I actually saw something on TikTok yesterday, and it was Madonna. She did a little tiny skit that was posted on TikTok, and it said that manifestations are actually channels that we download and we are granted access to from reaching a certain level of coherence. And that resonated with me so much. I just loved that. But anyway, without further ado, I will go through the 4 chapters and hopefully it starts to make a little bit more sense to you. And I hope I don't ruffle too many feathers because that is not my intention. My intention is only to guide you through what I have learned and how I have seen a dramatic shift in my life since adopting these principles. And I'd also like to mention that manifestation has been widely documented in almost every religious text. Of course, there is nuances and they do kind of mention it in riddles. However, I think it is for us to deconstruct. And I hope this video helps you decipher that and where you may be going a little bit array. Is that the right word? Astray? One of those words. Anyway, in your manifestation journey. Now, I don't know if you guys can read this because I think it's like it mirrors back to front, which sucks because I took a little while writing it. I've got very bad handwriting. But anyway, I will go here and I will drag you closer. Okay. So, hopefully you guys can read that. So the misconception, I feel like I kind of went through that a little bit, but the misconception is that you can call something in by simply listening to hertz, by simply writing something down a million times, by simply imagining it and expecting it to come into your hands. Like Neville Goddard kind of stuff. Like, I do believe in Neville Goddard and I do think that he was a wonderful teacher. However, I think that the modern day spiritual community has broken it down and simplified it to a point where it doesn't actually work. Now that you understand the misconception, I will go on to why force creates resistance. And that's what I call fractured coherence. Now, fractured coherence, like I mentioned before, it looks like something where you're doing one thing that is in alignment, which is in coherence, but something else that is not in coherence. So therefore, how can you raise your resonance to match that manifestation that you're trying to call in? So yeah, that's pretty much what it is. If I was to give you a personal story, I am a pretty private person, but I feel called to give this story. So a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2020 or 21, I went through a really rough patch in my life, and I still had my cosmetic tattooing business, which was doing well. It has always been doing well, but I knew that I was meant for more. However, I was struggling with something. I'll just come out and say it. I was struggling with an addiction at that time. I also lost a partner at that time. And during this phase, I stopped talking to my mum for about 8 months. And I tried to create 5 businesses outside of my cosmetic tattooing business, and each of them failed. And just to give you some context, my mum is my heart and soul. We are soulmates. I know that through and through. There is nothing that woman wouldn't do for me. There is nothing that I wouldn't do for her. However, we went through this frictional period. And as we know about soul contracts, I think family is sometimes our biggest karmic lessons. And, how this relates is that I couldn't manifest something into my life like a business that was thriving. And I will mention I wasn't really awakened at that point. I kind of dabbled here and there, but I wasn't really awakened. I couldn't do that when I was heartbroken because I didn't have my mum. To my own, it was my own fault. I wouldn't speak to her because she wanted me to go to rehab and a bunch of stuff, and I refused. I just thought I could do it all on my own. And of course, when I'm heartbroken without my soulmate, I always call my mum my true north, if that gives any kind of understanding as to how much she means to me. And that's an example of fractured coherence. You cannot put all of your effort into a business whilst someone so important like my family, I was in no communication with. Now, I understand some people don't talk to their family because there really is some kind of issue there. Like, I don't know, some people's families can be very toxic, and I understand why you would want to put a boundary up there. And that is also an example of being incoherent. Some people's families are genuinely toxic, so you do need to put a boundary up there. Blood is not thicker than water. I don't believe that at all. Another example would be friendships are a big one. Friendship, that's a big one. That's one I've had to learn a lot this year. Putting up boundaries with friends, especially ones that, if you're an empath, I certainly am, and you find yourself constantly giving. I'm an overgiver. I give, and I pattern recognition, and I watch you, and it's subconscious, right? And then it gets to a point where I snap. I don't say anything mean, but I just completely just cut ties. And I don't want to get to that point. And so I think that's another example of fractured coherence. If you cannot put up healthy boundaries and have healthy conversations with people, you're not going to call in your manifestation, whatever that may be. So yeah, that's a few examples of fractured coherence. So let's go back to the drawing board. What coherence actually is? Well, coherence is the feeling of everything being in alignment. Like, I'll bring it back to that story about the choir, like when everyone's playing in alignment, right? So think of it like this. You have put boundaries up with a partner, a friend, whatever it may be. You've started a new business. You're going really well with that business. It's aligned with your true north. You understand what you're doing. You have a healthy relationship with your family, and all of these sectors, including your health. Your health is a big one. That is a very big one. People miss this. You can't be in coherence when you are feeding your beautiful vessel crap, or, eating McDonald's every night. I mean, I know that some of us get so busy. I used to be like that. I used to only eat like Maggi noodles. I'm not even joking. Because I would be so busy, because I was trying to make all of, like, back in 2021 when I launched all those businesses and they failed. I was literally working that hard, and I poured my heart and soul in all of these businesses, and I was just eating Maggi noodles because I just didn't have time. I didn't have time. I was so worn out. I was so tired. I was not living in alignment. Alignment and coherence feel easy. It feels easy, right? So I know right now that I am in alignment and I am in coherence because my life does not feel like I'm swimming upstream. It feels like I'm swimming with the current, and it is taking me somewhere beautiful and tropical and just all the good things in the world. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And that's what manifestation coaches miss. It's not about putting on a song and thinking that this song that you like is going to raise your frequency. It's about coming to the areas of your life that make you whole and complete, and completing them. Because without that, how do you rise? How do you ascend? And this is not something that happens overnight, okay? It takes time. It takes time, and it takes learning, and it takes belief, because you don't see anything for a while, let's be real, unless, like, some people do. Some people are very good natural manifestors. That's why I say sometimes I think, I don't have a right to judge some of these manifestation coaches, because maybe for them, they are able to get into coherence a lot easier than the mass majority of their audience. So I don't really have a right to judge them, because maybe it works for them and they don't realize that the rest of the viewers that are viewing their content, it doesn't work like that for them, because it just doesn't. I mean, for some people it's common sense to break up with a partner that is causing them distress, and to have trust, and to, but to some people it's not. You know what I mean? So I guess this video is controversial in that sense, because it kind of shatters any ideas that you can just like push your way through to a manifestation. You might, but it might be fleeting. Like, for example, if you're manifesting a partner, again, I don't condone manifesting a specific person. Go back and watch my last video where I'm rambling off in the car like a bit of a weirdo, which I am a bit weird. Yeah, I don't believe in that. You're going to get karma for that, so don't do that. If someone leaves your life, they're meant to leave your life. Let them go. Let that fish go. And that's another thing. If you are in coherence, you're not going to want that partner that left you. You're not going to want them, because you're going to love yourself enough. Like, sorry, I don't mean to point. Like, that's not a nice thing to do, is it? You're not going to want that person that left you for someone else. Why would you want that person? If you were whole and complete within yourself, why would you want that person? Ask yourself that. Be honest with yourself. Why would you want that person? Why? Long pause. I'm so weird. Yes, let me get on to the next little section. Give me a sec. I have to pause it. Okay, chapter 4. How to return to coherence. And please note how I wrote return. Our natural state as human beings is to be in coherence. We are indoctrinated by the governments, the institutions, things we watch online to believe otherwise. Okay? Now, how to return to coherence. The way that I would do it, I would hermit. I would hermit the fuck out. Sorry, is that allowed on YouTube? I don't know. Am I going to get banned? I hope not. What I would do is I would stop watching so much content online, because a lot of it is crap. A lot of it's not good for your soul. If you are doom scrolling, you are not in coherence. If you would prefer to doom scroll than put your feet in Mother Earth, you are not in coherence. You're really not. Like, even for myself, I absolutely love filming for YouTube. I think this is so much fun. But don't get me wrong, I need to be outside. If I'm not outside with my dog, like at least twice a day, my brain goes, it's not the same. I know how to ground myself now. I never used to, which is why I went down that dark path of destruction, as I mentioned earlier. But I now know how, and it's something that you need to learn and also have faith in. If I was to take this back to like a Kabbalistic theory, I would say that manifestation, it's also something that I've struggled with for a while. Like, how can I be spiritual and trust in creator and source, and also be manipulating energy, so manifesting? And the conclusion that I have come to is that source, creator, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it, whatever your spiritual truth is about who is, maybe it's your higher self. He, she, they, them want us to experience all the light in the world. But the only way you can do it is if you get into a state of coherence. Now, this can only happen through trials and tribulations, tests, which we've all been through, let's be real. And also learning how to be sovereign within your, so for example, I know David G. talks a lot about this. So you must want everything in the world. Everything. The Creator wants to give you everything you could possibly desire. But you must also be okay with having none of it. That's the secret sauce. You have to be okay with having none of it. How does that make you feel when I say those words right now? When you hear those words, how does that make you feel? Because if you are in coherence, that should not make you feel like discouragement at all, right? So I know for myself, if I was to lose everything right now, or I don't like to speak morbidly, but let's just say I drop dead tomorrow, I would be okay with that. I would be okay with that because I know that Creator, Source, whatever, has a plan far greater than my expectations. So who am I to demand from our Creator what I want? I mean, that's not being in coherence at all. So again, I'll repeat the question. You are supposed to desire things, but how does it make you feel if you were to receive none of it? It's a hard one to sit with, isn't it? Yeah. So the only thing that another thing that David G. brings up a lot, which I love, well, I don't love it, but it makes a lot of sense. So anything that you are reliant on, like really reliant on, you inevitably have to lose. So if you become, I'm going to take this to love because I know that, I don't know why everyone goes crazy about love. I've gotten to that stage now where I don't want love. Well, I do. I shouldn't say that. Shouldn't say that. Words are spells. Eckhart Tolle right there. I do want love, but it's not my focus right now. I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying? Let me pause it. Okay. So yeah, I think I was saying David G. Yes, that's what I was saying. So David G. he often says anything that you are reliant on, you must lose it as it's inevitable. And the Creator, I guess no one really knows why, but the Creator, in his words, does it to see if you have faith, that you have faith. And, you know, that thing may come back to you, it may, but you need to get yourself into a place of sovereignty, especially if it's around love, to know that it will come back to you if it's the same person or if it's the next person, but you must have certainty that it will be better. It'll be better. It'll be either a better version of them or a better version of, or a totally different person who is better. Can you have faith? Or are you going to like go back to the manifestation gurus who tell you to write their name 10,000 times and that's going to bring them in? Or do subliminal works and try and telepathically communicate with them? Up to you. I'm just giving you what I'm thinking. I think it sounds pretty damn obvious. But you know, I want you to know as well, I've been here before. Don't think that I haven't gone through anything that you're going through. I've absolutely gone through it all, which is why I'm here. I'm 31 now. I've gone through a lot for someone my age, to be honest. I've gone through a lot. You know, and I haven't even, you know, I touched on some of it, but I haven't even told you the half of it. And I don't think I don't know if I'll ever share my full dark night of the soul story because it's so sad. It's so freaking sad. I don't want to make you sad, you know? Yeah. So I think the only thing that I would struggle with what David G. said, you know, anything that you are reliant on, you must lose, would be my dog. I just can't, like my dog, I got him around that 2021 mark when my life was just, you couldn't tell from the outside, but I was in pieces. And he got me through it all. Anyway, that makes, yes, nothing to do with the video. So I will now go on to the laws of vibration, frequency, and resonance, and how that relates to coherence. Okay, one sec. So understanding these universal laws really kind of makes coherence and its importance more understandable, I would say. So first off, we have the law of vibration, which scientifically means movement, right? So scientists might say, and if you're a scientist, please tell me otherwise if I'm wrong. It basically means, so physicists refer to it as an object oscillating. Fancy word, oscillating. Then the law of frequency refers to how often an object oscillates at a given amount of time. So I guess that's like how fast it moves at any point in time. So we can think of this as our auric field or our cells in our bodies, that kind of stuff. So then there is the law of, sorry, I can't even read my own handwriting, how embarrassing. The law of resonance. And that's kind of where this starts to tie in, okay? The law of resonance is when something outside of us matches something within us. And that's literally what the laws all point to as coherence. So it's when, like, in our chakras, like, think of like your root chakra, like all of the chakras all the way up, they all need to be in alignment, right? So a big one is like your root chakra and your sacral chakra. If they are not in alignment, if you don't feel safe in your own home, like you feel like you might get kicked out of your house or something like that, or like there's violence and whatever, that is such a hard place to be in, and you need to get out of that, because that is messing up the whole frequency of everything. You need to really start from the ground up to get to that chi energy, to be able to really pull that energy up. And I do believe in sort of Joe Dispenza and all that kind of stuff, but I don't like his teachings on like the pineal gland and all that kind of stuff, because I don't think it really matters. I think what matters is coherence. So anyway, moving back to that. So with all those three laws, so you've got the law of vibration, the law of frequency, the law of resonance. Coherence is what allows every part of us to move together. So it encapsulates all of those laws. Now I've only got 1 minute left on my little timer. I'm not allowed to go past half an hour on this app. If you would like me to send you an overview of the law of resonance and how that may be applicable to you, and so that you can come back and visit these topics, I've got my email. I'll write it down for you guys, and just email me and I will email you a copy of the document that I made. I've spent a lot of time trying to make it perfect for you guys, and yep, I'm just loving it. I'm just loving it. Just loving life right now. Love you guys. It's so cool being. I uploaded a short today and it got like a lot of views, and that made like my whole week. Just so you know, it made my whole week. Okay, love you guys. Bye.